Hello, and welcome to week 2 of English 120. This week, we're going to be talking about active reading a lot more, and you're going to practice doing so with two of the readings we have from the Conscious Reader. You're going to read A Homemade Education by Malcolm X, which is found on pages 92 through 100, and The Angel in the House by Virginia Woolf, which is found on pages 108 through 113. We'll have a discussion forum, and then you'll write in your reflective journal, and you'll also complete the first real research lesson and research quiz in comp class called Understanding Research. So we're going to start off by really talking a lot about how to engage in active reading with the two texts we're going to be reading for this week. The reason why we do active reading is because it helps you critically engage with the text that you're reading. A lot of what you're going to be learning in this class is how to critically think about things and critically write about things. This is your active reading checklist. You should have it with you whenever you're reading anything for this class. So let's talk about how to go about actively reading The Angel in the House by Virginia Woolf. The first thing you're going to do, according to the checklist, is you're going to look at the title and think about, what does the title tell me about the text? Now, the first thing you want to do is think about it. Okay, well, it's got the word angel in a house. Maybe it's about someone who is, start thinking about what does it mean to have an angel in the house. Then you can do some extra research to really understand it. If you Google the words "the angel in the house," you'll find out that it was the popular idea of what an ideal Victorian woman was during the Victorian era. And the term came from a poem that was written by Coventry Patmore. And the poem was all about the amazing qualities of his wife. And these characteristics that she had were that she was devoted, she was submissive to her husband, she was passive and had no power, she was meek and charming and graceful and sympathetic, self-sacrificing, she put everyone before herself, pious, and above all, she was pure, okay? Very hard ideals to live up to, but this was the ideal for women until, well into the 1930s, when Virginia Woolf was writing this essay. So keep that in mind as you're reading. And when you're about to read an essay, it's a really good idea to do a little research to understand where it's coming from. Who wrote the text? So have you ever heard of the author before you've read it? That's the next question you want to ask yourself before you begin actively reading. So we know that Virginia Woolf wrote this text. And if you look in your active reader at the place where this is located, you'll see that there's a little, right before the essay, there's a little biography about Virginia Woolf. Before you read any essay or anything for this class, you want to read that bio. It's very important. This will give you some basic information about who you're reading, okay, who the author is. And that's important information to know. The other place to go, after you've done that, maybe you still have more questions about who this person is. The other place to go is you can Google the author. It's a really easy way to find some information, but maybe you want some more in-depth information. And then you would log on to our Napa Valley College library database called Biographies in Context. And I'll take you through how to do that a lot more in future weeks. But for now, if you want to do so and find out more about Virginia Woolf, go for it. Just know that if you're accessing that particular database from home, you're going to need your Napa Valley College library ID number. So you're going to need your library card number. The next thing you want to look at is what genre it is. So a genre is the type of writing that you're looking at. There's a lot of different genres. There's poetry, there's fiction, there's drama, and there's nonfiction. There's also speeches, and this particular essay was originally delivered as a speech. So it's really important to think about that. The way that she's presenting her ideas, they were originally presented verbally to a group of women. So it's really important to think about that as you read the text. The other thing you really need to know is when it was published. So to find out when this essay or this speech actually was published or delivered, you need to look closely in our text. If it's not explicitly stated, if you look at the actual page and it doesn't say this was published in 1998, you need to look at the credits page at the back of the book. It's found on pages 739 through 742. And another way to find the publication date is just to Google the title of the essay. This will help you find out when it was first delivered. And that's how I found out when this was delivered as a speech, and that was in 1931. I want you to really think about how things have changed, especially for women, since 1931 when this was published. All right, so now it's your turn to actually read the essay. We've thought about it. You've really put it in your head who Virginia Woolf is, when this was written, how things have changed since it was written. Now I want you to slowly read the essay with a pen in hand. That means I want you to take out a pen and write all over your book. If for some reason you have a book that you're using that you can't write in, then you need to make a photocopy of the essay so you can write on it, or you need to get sticky notes so you can stick them all inside of your book. All of your notes need to be inside your book in some way, and I will be checking this in our first conference, which will be in a couple weeks. So don't forget to actively read with a pen in hand. So you're going to go through and you're going to find any words that you aren't familiar with. There will be words in this essay that you've never heard of. I know there's some that I've never heard, that I had never heard of until I read this. Or there might be people you've never heard of. Maybe you don't know who Queen Victoria is. You want to circle it and look it up and write in the book who it is so you don't have to look it up again, okay? You want to mark words or passages that make you think about things you've already read. Maybe reading this made you think about an essay you read in your history class last semester. Write that down in the margin. Or maybe it reminds you of a movie you once saw about women obtaining the right to vote. Write that down in the margin. I want you to mark words or passages that bring to mind personal experiences. Maybe what she's talking about reminds you of something that happened to you. I want you to write it down. Or something that happened to your father or your mother. I want you to mark passages that you agree with or you disagree with. Maybe there's a part where she's saying something and you think, yeah, I totally agree. I want you to circle it, and I want you to tell us why you agree with it, okay? Maybe there's parts of it where you're like, you're crazy. I don't agree with you at all. I want you to write that down. Why don't you agree? Write the details down, okay? Maybe there's a passage in here in this essay that you read and you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about. I want you to highlight that or mark it in some way so that after you finish reading the essay, you can go back and look at it again. I want you to mark any passages that you really like and note why you really like this passage. I want you to mark any part of the text that highlights the main theme of the text. By the end, you want to be able to summarize what's being said. If you had to summarize it in a couple sentences, what exactly was the point of her making this speech? What was she trying to communicate to these women that were listening to her, okay? While you're writing, I really think you should, you really want to ask questions. Ask Virginia Woolf questions. Ask questions about what she's talking about. Ask yourself questions while you're reading it. And if you if you find anything like a metaphor or a simile in here, circle it and make a note of it, okay? All right. So hopefully that'll help you really get in touch with this essay. If at the end of it, after you read The Angel in the House, you still have questions, make sure you reach out to me and come by my office hours so we can really talk about it, and I'll help you get through it, okay? The next essay you're going to read is called A Homemade Education, and that's by Malcolm X. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at the biography about Malcolm X, which is found on page 92 of The Conscious Reader. You really want to read this and understand who Malcolm X is. And I want you to ask yourself if you've ever heard of Malcolm X before. Maybe you saw the movie Malcolm X. Maybe you came across him in high school. Maybe someone once told you about him. If so, I want you to really think about what do you know about him already, and does it agree with what you read in the biography, or does it not? And maybe you have some questions about where he's coming from, okay? Then I want you to think about the title. What is a homemade education what do you think that's going to be about? Think about it. Is it going to be about education? What does it mean, that word homemade? Really think about what you think it's going to be about. Then I want you to think, do you think, what genre is it? Is it going to be fiction or nonfiction? What is Malcolm X generally known for writing? Um, and some of that information can really be revealed in the biography. Also, when it was published, that's written explicitly right there in the biography. So make sure you read it, okay? So once you've done all that pre-work, then I want you to actually start reading with a pen in hand. Now this is the same as the last essay. I want you to write all over this essay, and I will be checking your work. So make sure you do it. Remember, if you need sticky notes, that's fine, however you want to do it, but it's got to be in the book, not separate, okay? Circle words you don't know, mark words or passages that make you think about things you've already read, mark words or passages that bring to mind personal experiences, mark passages that you agree or disagree with and state why you agree or disagree with the passage, mark difficult passages so you can come back to them, mark passages you really like and note why you like those passages, mark passages of the text that highlight the main theme of the text. And by the end of reading it, I want you to be able to summarize what homemade education was about and what Malcolm X was trying to say in it. As you go about reading this essay, I want you to ask questions. Ask Malcolm X questions. Ask yourself questions. And if he uses any literary elements, you can highlight those, okay? All right, so all this hard work actively reading the text for this week are going to get you ready for the actual assignments of this week. So the second conversation we're going to be having is all about Virginia Woolf and The Angel in the House. What I'd like you to do is use your active reading notes to answer the following questions. You're going to tell us who Virginia Woolf was, okay? When and where did she live? And I want you to think about, this essay was originally delivered as a speech to the Women's Service League in London in 1931. And I want you to tell me how things have changed for women in the last 82 years now, I think. I want you to give specific examples from the text or from personal experiences that support what you're saying. What professional challenges do women still face today, so many years later? Or maybe you feel like everything that she brings up in the essay isn't true anymore. So use examples from your own personal experiences to support this, and from the essay. Then I want you to tell me what are the characteristics of the angel in the house that are found in Virginia Woolf's essay. I told you a little bit about what those characteristics were based on the poem that was popularized in the Victorian era. Now I want you to think about it in relation to the essay. What does she talk about the characteristics of the angel in the house are? Then tell me where the term the angel in the house comes from. I did give you some hints about this earlier in the lecture. And why does Woolf say she had to kill the angel? What did she gain by killing the angel? I really want you to think about this. This is a very important part of the essay, and it's important for you to understand why she feels like she has to kill this angel in order to become a writer. Then finally, how is Woolf like a modern woman in her essay, and how is she not? Okay? Remember, when you write in the conversation, you're going to post your own main post, and that is due by Saturday, this coming Saturday, February 1st. You need to write your own post, and then by the following Tuesday, you need to respond to at least 3 of your classmates' posts. Now remember, we're trying to have a conversation here. So you want to make sure when you respond to someone that you're engaging in a conversation. Ask questions. Encourage them. Remember, we're in a learning community here. We want to encourage a conversation back and forth. If someone responds to your post, you by all means respond back to them. You are required only to give 3 responses, but if you give more, that's really good. So please continue. Don't feel like you can only post your own post and then 3 more. You can respond to everyone who responds to your prompt. So please make sure you have a conversation. That's the goal. I know it's easier the first week when we're talking about introductions because we're all getting to know each other. We're not talking about some essay from 1931, okay? But here's where I really want to see you use what you gained from last week's conversation to use in this week's conversation. And as always, if you have questions about it, I want you to come see me in my office hours. All right, so the next assignment is in your reflections journal. What you're going to be doing is you're going to be responding to both Malcolm X's essay and Virginia Woolf's speech. And what I want you to do is answer the following question. How is Malcolm X's quest for knowledge in a homemade education similar to Virginia Woolf's pursuit of her career as a writer in The Angel in the House? How are these two essays different? What do you think is the main idea from each essay, and how can you relate to this main idea? Find examples to support what you're saying. So when you write your journal response, and remember, each week you're required to write at least 200 words and use examples from the text to support what you're saying. You really want to look through, and if you've done your active reading, this won't be hard. You'll know what the main points are, right? You've already done that work. You'll be able to find examples to support what you're saying because you've already highlighted all these main things that are really exciting about the essays, okay? So this shouldn't be that hard if you've done your active reading work. Finally, this week in comp class, you're going to be taking on your first research lesson and research quiz. You're going to complete understanding research and then take the quiz at the end. Now remember, you should slot about 2 hours to take these to learn about the lesson. If there is a reference to a video, you want to watch the full video. You want to make sure if there's a reference to the Bedford Researcher, you read that whole section. They'll refer you to the e-text. You can also follow along in your own physical copy, so you can take notes and things like that. It's the same book. The e-book is the same as the physical copy that you have. Once you complete the lesson, then you're going to take the quiz. If you get lower than a 70%, you definitely want to retake the quiz. But before you retake it, I would go through the research lesson again to see what you've missed. What was it that you didn't quite understand? You only get 2 tries at this, so make sure if you fail the first test, you don't just go back and do it again real quick because then you're stuck with that score. So make sure you get it done. Remember, you only have until the end of the week, and then this closes. You can't get points anymore. And comp class is worth 30% of your grade. All right? All right, so next week we'll be moving on to the narrative essay and reading another essay or two. Please make sure you come see me if you have any questions. I'm really excited about this class. I feel like we're off to a great start. So don't get freaked out by the readings this week. And if you are, come see me. I look forward to seeing you guys online.